Hello all, Julia Hartstein here. I wanted to just jump on real quick. I wanted to make a video reply to a comment left on my YouTube from a video I made yesterday. I had made a video about my lower back pain and a little bit about my journey because I've made a video about it before. I was talking about my spiritual, emotional, and physical, right? Because the physical pain, and I wanted to get into that just a little bit because it was made by a really good family friend who has helped support me in bad times. And it's just something we went back and forth and did because I've known them probably a good 20 years. So a really good person and human being, and probably on the list of him and his wife being some of the people who I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. So I wanted to make this video comment because, again, about my back, I was talking about, excuse me, spiritual, emotional, and physical. And I'm a Pilates instructor. I was talking a little about my journey and my 30-day challenge, and my journey that has been the past maybe 10 years amidst of me taking care of my mother, and a little bit about my back pain in that respect. Also, being a Pilates instructor, I am a spiritual healer. I'm a hands-on healer. My hands heat up on site for helping injuries, ailments, all sorts of things. And I'm still learning. I'm a student of Pat Longo, and I've been learning. I mean, I've been a healer all my life, really, and I've really understood a lot more of what that is now. That being said, I had mentioned about a book or books referring to back pain and how it's an emotional response to whatever's happening. And I don't mention mental because a lot of times when I'm working on somebody, I'll ask them about spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally what's going on. And the comment that was made was about my back pain being because of mental strains, and to look into mental health, right? And that's actually not completely, wrong. I mean, there is an element of that because when I'm looking at people's bodies, when I'm doing healings, right, a lot of times I'm seeing the mental causing the problem. Sometimes it's a physical thing that you might need just a little adjustment. And sometimes it's emotional that you need the adjustment. Sometimes it's mental, sometimes it's spiritual, sometimes it's all of it, right? And so mental health is important. And I wanted to get into that. It's not just that aspect that causes, right? It can, because our mind is a powerful creator, and how we're working with that, because I believe we can heal ourselves, which makes me want to go into some of the stuff I wanted to talk about. Excuse me. One of the things that I highly suggest is a book by Louise Hay called You Can Heal Your Life. If you look up the back of it, and I wanted to have this ready and I didn't do it for this. Oops, oh well. If you look up the back of it, it's like a dictionary lookup. You can look up anything from cancer to earaches to knee problems to back problems, and what is emotionally causing that problem, mentally possibly, and what you can mentally do to fix it, because it's like a little mantra kind of a thing. And really what the whole beginning of the book is, teaches you how to identify it and how to work that process. So this is an amazing resource for anyone to have. I'm just looking up back real quick, blah, 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 because she goes into back problems and she goes lower, middle, upper, right? Because each one has their own issue. Lower back, fear of money, lack of financial support. That has been something I've learned all my life, and in the past 10 years has been a huge pushing forward through it. Even now, with it, that's why I say I know it's an emotional thing, because it's also learning my self-worth that I'm working through. And so it moves. I had mentioned in the last video I've been working with a woman named Patty Thomas, who I'd love to put on here as well at some point. And she's an orthobionomist, and it's a body technique to help heal the body, right? And there's the physical aspect and the movement of it, and there's also the emotional energetic work as well that happens. And she said to me, let your sacrum breathe you. And I was like, wow, like even just saying that now, all of a sudden, whoo, this opened up for me, right? Because I know that's where it's going. It's so distinct for me, and I really understand. That being said, not everybody's there. Not everybody, I could say this, and some people, it's like, it's this feeling for them, huh? And this is what this book talks about. You just even identifying the feeling. And this is something I had mentioned before about working with clients in Manhattan. So many of them, and this is before I knew any of this or had back problems. I mean, I have scoliosis, but that's not why this is happening. They would tell me, I would have, because you would have so many clients in Manhattan who came in because they did Pilates because they had back problems. And they would tell me of books. And again, I don't have these books specifically, nor do I know the names of them offhand, that would talk about back problems and how they related to emotional/mental, right? Because that mental, that thinking things are a certain way can cause the injuries and ailments in the body, absolutely. So there is that element to it, and I would say it's mental emotional, right? Because it's not, sometimes, and I think with the stigma now, right, and mental health, like we think things are mental and people are going crazy, and yes, that's the case, because we're no longer dealing with things that insult our souls, right? We're seeing it. It's breaking down. So a lot of us are just scrambling. And there's some of us who have been working on it for many years, and we're still working other layers. And there are people who are new to this who are coming in who are just like, what? So this is one of the books I highly suggest for this kind of mode of operation, for lack of a better way of talking about it. This is also an amazing book that I had for years, and I've only picked up within maybe the past year. It's called Eastern Body, Western Mind, Psychology and the Chakra System as a Path to the Self. And it's written by Anna Day Judith. I believe that's how you pronounce her name. I don't think you have to be into chakras. You don't have to know about it. It's just about where in the body you hold emotions. And this can be, we say emotions, it can be a mental thing that's causing the hold of emotions. It's something I've seen for years before I knew any of this. With Pilates, you would just start to see it because Ramana and Shari taught the body, they taught intuition, right? Look at the body, what's going on? And you weren't just seeing, right, the physical body, oh, look, this is off, well, I have to, even it out. What else is going on? I mean, and there was Jerome Weinberg had, one of his stories with Ramana was that, we were all sitting around and she had a client come in and she was talking to the client. She had the client go, she goes, okay, let's go to the reformer. And she looked at all the students, Jerome being one of them, and she goes, she has cancer. And they walked off and they were like, wow. Like Ramana had 2 seconds speaking with this woman or man, I'm not even sure. I believe it was a woman, and went off. It's noticing what these things are. Now, do you have to be into chakras or, maybe you think chakras are a bad thing? It doesn't matter. Pick up the book anyway, because it's the psychology of the emotion stuck in the body. It doesn't have to be about, something you deem not necessarily great. It doesn't matter. For some people, it's not going to matter at all. But I want to make you aware of that, because I had been reading the book and I was going through the sacral chakra. And my best friend and her husband live here in North Carolina. They're up in Flat Rock. And I'm going through the sacral chakra and I'm reading some of what it's saying, and I'm like, oh my God, this is them. And he's one aspect of it, and she's the other. And I'm reading it to them, and even he turned around, he's like, what's the name of this book? I'm going to pick it up. I highly suggest this book, and it's these two go together really well, if you ask me. But if this is a little off for you, pick this up. It's amazing, this book. What I would also say to that, because again, looking at mental health per se and it only being about mental health, we are more than just our brains, right? We are emotion, we are spiritual. Whether you consider yourself spiritual or religious or however you decide what that is, you can word that what makes you feel true to you. Is, most people realize this is just a vehicle. Who we are keeps going, whether this is moving or not, right? it's just another aspect, right? It just continue what that is. We're not just this then, right? It's not just the meat that's going on in here. It's our spirit, it's our heart, right? I even read a meme too about heartstrings, that when you have a severe heartache, right? Let's say a spouse crosses over that you were very close to, right? And they talk about the heartstrings. There's actually strings that they can break, and that people can die of a broken heart, right? Like, it wasn't just a thing. And why was that a thing to say, right? That makes sense. Anyway, I want to talk about that aspect of thinking about Western medicine per se and Eastern medicine. And this is an amazing book. It's called Between Heaven and Earth: A Guide to Chinese Medicine, Traditional Chinese Medicine, by Harriet Benfield and Ephraim Korngold. I believe I'm saying those correctly. Between Heaven and Earth. And it talks about traditional Chinese medicine and Eastern medicine and Western medicine. And it describes it in Eastern medicine being the gardener and Western medicine being the mechanic, right? Eastern medicine is, right, the gardener. It's, how's the sun hitting the soil? How is the soil? Is it dry enough? Has there been rain? You're looking at a whole bunch of different factors that are contributing to what's going on, as opposed to the mechanic that says, I don't know much about cars this way. I know how to drive them. I'm not so great about tinkering around in them. But so I'm going to use this, like, say there's a spark plug and it's, oh, the spark plug's it's not firing right. We have to, and then the whole car shuts down, right? That's not who we are as, right? We think of the body that way. We've been taught that that's medicine and that's what it is. But there's so much more than just the mechanic, as far as I'm concerned. And this is an amazing book to look into what that is. And on one last little note, because I felt that this needed to sneak in there as well, it's about looking and seeing things differently. And an amazing book for this is called The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. He's a doctor, and I believe he is also a pastor, reverend, I'm not sure. I didn't look it up when I pulled the book out, but I believe there's also that aspect. And he's talking about the science of the mind, so to speak, and relating that to our spirituality, right? Because he also has that element, and yet this is this and that is that, right? It's a way of looking at things. What I got from this book is there's no good or bad, right or wrong, right? There's just levels of consciousness. And I feel that is a huge step with a lot of all of this and looking at things differently. So I just want to share that with you and send my love. Thank you so much for commenting. I really appreciate it, and I love you so much. And I wanted to share the rest of that with you. And Mars wanted to too. She wanted to come hang out, but she gave me the back a little bit. Anyway, I love you. I hope you're all well, and take care. Blessings.